I just recorded 5 minutes of this and then realized the microphone was too far away. Let me make sure it's working. Yep, looks good. So I came across this piece, an opinion piece written in the Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania newspaper called the Press Enterprise, I believe is the name of it. It's by a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel named Allan Red Dog Schappert. And he wrote a piece basically grieving over what's happening in our country today. If you like to have a little company in your grief, this was a good piece to read for that. And if you know anyone else who might enjoy the same company, feel free to share this with them. But I thought I would just read it because I know a lot of people don't have time to sit down and read during the day, but they can listen while they do other things. And this might be a good way for you to be able to hear this. I get really envious sometimes of people who are able to write like this. He talks about things that I've thought about many times, but I don't think I could ever pull this together in such an articulate and concise way as he did. So a little writer's envy there, but he seems to be a bit of a poet warrior. So, obviously he has some talents that a lot of us don't have. Anyway, I'm just going to read it straight through. At a point in life when there are far too many days behind than ahead, one tends to reflect on a life lived. In my lifetime, decades were devoted to protecting America. Sacrifices were made both by myself and my family in military service. The tip of the spear. Countless weeks over the years were spent living at the end of a runway, on alert, with an armed B-52, as generations of aviators have done before and since. The purpose, if required, be airborne in minutes on a one-way trip, bringing a nuclear Armageddon to an adversary. Flying the unfriendly skies over North Vietnam provided a brief interlude. But overall, this long line of silent sentinels stood firm to protect America by deterring external threats to our freedoms and way of life across the decades. I was privileged to serve with men and women of integrity, imbued with a sense of service. I'm truly grateful that the B-52s we flew, which were built tough, were engineered on scientific principles and fabricated by experienced, skilled workers rather than founded on mere beliefs and feelings. In all likelihood, they'll be flying missions for the next 100 years. Sadly, the sacrifices and efforts expended appear to have been wasted. Today, we trash our allies and cozy up to tyrants and dictators. A gaggle of anonymous juvenile tech bros led by a ketamine-fueled immigrant illegally rampage, unfettered through federal agencies. Mercurial, erratic, inconsistent policies change as often as the wind. Uncertainties, fears, and instability grow with each passing day. Daily, we slide closer and closer to modeling the former Soviet Union, the antithesis of freedom and American principles. And he's one of the few people I've heard say this. I've been saying this for, well, since the inauguration. But it's good to hear somebody who's more in the know than I am and has a lot more past experience than I do, close up to these things. He goes on to say, Congress now serves as a bagman to fund the whim of the moment, seemingly at the behest of K Street lobbyists and wealthy political donors. When was the last time we had an actual budget? How can a legislature legislate when enslaved to partisan politics and the imperative of getting reelected in contrast to standing up for the greater good? A compromised Supreme Court recently trotted out a shallow token standards of conduct for themselves. Apparently, it's not a bribe to accept favors after a decision, only before. Corporations are people? Really? Whatever happened to Superman's motto of truth, justice, and the American way? Pay to play is the theme of the day. Unchallenged and uncontested blatant conflicts of interest abound. The rule of law is situational, if adhered to at all. America can no longer be trusted. The unbridled pursuit of power and wealth, driven by unquenchable greed, has left service above self and constitutional norms in the dustbin of a quaint past. Recently, the VA said exposure to Agent Orange is the probable cause of the cancer I live with. Actually, I suspect it's more from yet unspecified sources, which cause military pilots to have significantly higher cancer rates than the general population. It probably doesn't matter much with mindless assaults about to render the VA impotent to provide for our country's veterans. During Vietnam, we had a somewhat tongue-in-cheek saying that nothing's too good for the troops, and that's what we get, nothing. Don't misunderstand. I genuinely value the kind words and the support from friends and strangers alike, but being labeled as suckers and losers by the government which one has faithfully served stings sharply. Can you imagine? Mm. We have a republic, but only if you can keep it, is attributed to Ben Franklin in 1787 on the last day of the Constitutional Convention. We do not have to invade the United States. We will destroy you from within. Nikita Khrushchev. And then he concludes by saying, a wasted life, I grieve. Who can't relate to this? Does that sum up your feelings or what? It sure sums up mine. I mean, just to read it and to think about how great our government once was, and as a former conservative, I can't believe I'm even saying something like government was great. But now, when we see this destruction, it's pretty clear looking back, we had a great government. And to think of all the dedicated men and women across all the government, not just the military, who worked their hearts out to protect us, whether it was to protect our health or to protect our schools or our food or protect us from military attacks. And to see all that being dismantled and destroyed in just a matter of weeks, as if a foreign enemy had invaded our country, it's just really hard to take. And I guess I just got some comfort reading from someone else who was feeling exactly the same way. Someone who was in a much better position than I've ever been in to actually see these people at work and to see their dedication and their love of country. So I just wanted to pop out a quick video and share it with you in the hope that it will give you a little encouragement throughout the day as well. Feel free to share it with anyone else who you think might appreciate it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.